hunt groups. Now, hunt groups, again, are relevant because what we need to do right now is I want to start having a conversation about Unity Connection. Unity Connection is our voicemail solution. It has its own server called a Cisco Unity Connection server. And I have my example here, instructor. I'll access it with the access 1234 password. And what we see now is we have access to the panel, but we also have this drop-down menu. So we have serviceability, we have OS administration, we got disaster recovery, we have our connection serviceability, and we also have connection administration. Now, where we are right now is we are in the Cisco Unity Connection Administration window itself. And notice, like I mentioned in the first day of class, the Unity Connection has all of its menus on the side. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a best effort to set up our Cisco Unity Connection to work with our Cisco Unity or Cisco Unified Communications Manager. Now, what that means is first of all, we need to understand a few things. So let's kind of back up and punt here. In order for us to be able to have voicemail, we need to remember some of the theory that we talked about. Remember, from a single CUC, we get, if we just have one, we can have up to 250 voicemail ports. A voicemail port signifies exactly how many people can simultaneously be accessing the system. Now, I'm running demo licenses here, so that means I only have 2 ports out of the box for the purposes of doing demonstrations and labs and testing. And that's more than enough for what we want to be able to illustrate, but we need to understand how things are going to operate with regard to voicemail. First of all, there are some things associated with voicemail, like our message waiting light. So if somebody leaves me a voicemail message, I want to make certain that the light comes on. Well, in a skinny environment, which is what we're running, we will have to create extensions that are going to serve the sole and express purposes of turning that message waiting light on and off. Then what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to create those ports. Once we have those ports in place, we're going to have to place those ports into a hunt group, because if one of them's busy, I want to be able to ring the other. And I'm going to have to also make the specification that these are going to be used for the purposes of voicemail. So what does that look at like at the configuration line? Well, let me give you an idea. Actually, the graphical user interface, I've got CLI on the brain. Sorry about that. But the idea is that we find ourselves in a situation where first we need to find out where we need to go. Well, we are going to realize this is going to be under advanced features. Under advanced features, we have the voicemail menu option, and what we can see here is we have a whole group of options that we're going to work with. Now, I'm going to do this in an order that makes things easier with regard to how we're going to set it up. So the first thing that I want to talk about right now is I want to talk about setting up these numbers that we're going to create in order to allow the system to turn on and off the message waiting light. So that's going to be where we spend our first little bit of time. We're going to go down here to the message waiting indicator. The message waiting, let me see if we have any. I had done some testing, and like I said, we may run into a problem because I did do testing. So what I want to do is I want to designate 2 numbers that we're going to use inside of our phone system, 2 DNs, 2 4-digit numbers that are going to serve the purposes of turning on and off the message waiting indicator. What we'll do for the purposes of our conversation, we'll just arbitrarily pick 2, and I'll say that they're going to be, let's say, 5501. 5501 is going to serve the purposes for our needs, and that's going to be message waiting indicator on, and we will say turn it on. Now again, we have calling search spaces. That means we can put security in this. So that's going to allow us, or have the system set up such that people cannot just arbitrarily start playing with other people's message waiting lights. So here we would do the second one. The second one is going to be to turn it off. And then what we'll do is, again, no calling search space, but we do need to specify the fact that we want to turn it off. So we just made some configuration. How do we verify that configuration? Well, we verify that configuration by getting a listing of these particular components. So we do that from the configuration from the graphical user interface by going into the system here and taking a look at exactly what it is we have configured. So notice, did I not save that one? 2001 is off. Let me go ahead and refresh. Nope, 2001 didn't take. So let me find out, add new. So, I'm sorry, 5501, description, message waiting indicator on. I must have forgot to save it while I was talking. May have to pick some other numbers. Add was successful. Now let's go back to our list, and notice we now have 2 of these guys. Now the idea here is they're not, we didn't assign any partitions and we didn't assign any calling search spaces, but these are the numbers that we're going to be able to use to manipulate our message waiting indicators. Now, the rest of our configuration is going to begin under the advanced features, voicemail, and we're going to go to the port wizard. Now, we have a couple of options that we can use here. For instance, we could use that first menu listing where we just go ahead and configure the ports. But since we're beginning, I don't want to assume any level of knowledge. So what we're going to do is we're going to now begin to make configurations. Now, what I want you guys to understand is right now we should not have any associations with a voicemail system. So to illustrate that point, I'm going to reach over on the telephone, and actually I'll bring up the demo phone. I'm going to reach over and I'm going to hit this button right here on one of the telephones that I have. And it's going to tell me whether or not I have completed some type of call. So let me hit the message indicator.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please consult your directory and call again. Or
your call cannot be completed to dial. That's exactly what we're hearing. That's exactly what we're hearing on the soft phone, but I have the audio turned off to prevent feedback loops. So we don't have that feature capability yet. So because we haven't enabled voicemail, because where is voicemail? It's all the way over there on the CUC server, on the Unity connection server. So how are we going to set that up? Well, first of all, we have to follow all the steps here, and then we'll follow the steps that we need to implement on the CUC, and we'll have a fully working voicemail solution. So what we need to realize here is once we get everything set up, we're going to go to this advanced features, voicemail, and I want to go to the Cisco Voice wizard. Now, what this means, the voicemail wizard, what ends up happening here, this is going to be relevant to us. So I want to make certain that we remember that. I'm going to copy that because we're going to use it later. But what we need to realize at this point is all we need to do is hit next, because I'm just going to use the default configurations. Now, currently we have 0 ports configured. How many do we want to add? I'm going to add our maximum. That means we're going to add up to 2. Hit next. And now what we're going to do is we're going to call these our, just give them a name. So it's going to be VM, and let's see, our device pool is mandatory. So we're just going to use the default device pool. We're not going to do calling search spaces. We're not going to configure or work with advanced, or I'm sorry, automated alternate routing. We have to assign a location. I'm going to pick the default of hub none, since it's basically just out of scratch. And then what we're going to do is we need to pick a device security mode. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use non-secure. Keep in mind, we're not really doing anything that we want to make sure is going to be reflective of a secure environment. We're just trying to demonstrate how everything's going to work. So what we need to do now is we need to define our directory numbers. So the directory number is going to be the numbers that we're going to call in order to activate certain features. So what we'll do is, let's say, I'll just pick an arbitrary number. I'm going to say 5701. Our partition, calling search space, group, our caller ID, voicemail, and the external number mask. Not going to be worried about any of those. All we're doing is defining this DN because it's going to create 2 numbers that we're going to have assigned to our line group that we need to create. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to add that later because I want to use that as an opportunity for us to continue our learning process, because I think it would be important for you to see the creation of another line group. Now, from this point on, what we're going to do is we're going to see exactly what we're going to have configured. We're going to verify it, and then we're going to see a listing of all of the numbers that we are going to create that are going to be associated with our voicemail system. We now are going to end up with 2 extensions that are going to be part of that process, and we're going to have to place those 2 extensions or dialed numbers into a hunt group. Now, once I click next, now what will happen is I'm going to see a confirmation of everything that's going to happen. It's telling me, there's my Cisco voicemail server name. It's telling me the ports. It added ports 1 through 2. Gives me all of the information, gives me the numbers that I hoped it would. So now all I need to do is finish. Now, once I have the system finished, then what I need to do is I need to really start looking at what the options are with regard to how we're going to set the system up. So this is all done. So what we want to do now is let's go back to that route hunt configuration, and what we're going to do is we're going to configure a line group. That line group, notice we already have one configured, but we're going to create another one. So we're going to create a new line group, and that line group is going to be named, let's see, we'll call this VM group, VMH group. We'll go ahead and not worry about this. We'll leave it at, we'll go ahead and do top down. No busy, no answer, none of that stuff. And if I scroll down, we'll see the two extensions that are going to be corresponding to the two ports that we created. So let's add those to the group. The other element that we need to realize here is all we have to do is just hit save from this point. So we have an algorithm. Right now we're not really worried about anything with regard to setting this up because these are the voicemail ports. And we've now created the group. Well, what's next? Well, now what we need to do is create the list. So we go back to routing, we go to route hunt, we go down and we create the hunt list. And we've already got one, but let's create another one. This hunt list is going to be our VM hunt list. And we'll just call it that, our VM hunt list. It's not necessary. What is necessary, however, is we have to define the group, and remember, we're using default for our purposes. And this is a special hunt group that's going to be used for voicemail usage. This is going to be where we hit save. And now our last element is going to be to configure the pilot, the number that everybody's going to use to access voicemail. So, you know, again, it's just that three-step process. Like I said, route groups and our hunt groups are all as easy as 1, 2, 3 because that's exactly how many steps it takes to set one up and have that hierarchical design that Cisco's so famous for. So what we'll end up doing now is we have this system, and what we need to do is add our line group. So what we'll do is add a line group. We need to pick the line group. We said it was our, our voicemail group. Hit OK. And now we see that we have that configured. It's under here under the hunt list details. So we'll save. Now once this is done, our next step is going to be to create our, must reset the hunt list changes other than the disable description to take effect. So I had to reset it. So now our last step in this is going to be, let's see what we have here. Our hunt list. So the next step is going to be to deal with the idea of the hunt pilot. So what is going to be the number that we're going to configure in order to support this idea of our hunt pilot? Well, what I'll do is I'm going to create a new hunt pilot group. Let's see if I have any others in the system. First of all, no, I'll add new. Let's see if this barks at us. I'm going to create 6500. 6500 is going to serve the purpose of giving us our number. So we'll say we have here our route partition description. This is going to be our voicemail pilot. Okay, numbering plan, not worried about MLP. Alerting, not worried about. Route options, not worried about. Now, there are some elements that we do want to look at through here, and that's going to be, nope, we're good to go here. So we'll go ahead and click save. Please specify value hunt list. Oh, it didn't specify the hunt list. Where is it? There it is. So there we go, our VM hunt list. That's what I was trying to remember. I thought I'd already done it. And we should now see two of these bad bears. So now we have our VM hunt 5600, and we see that we have the one that we configured before. Well, the next thing we need to do is go back to our advanced features. Remember, it's under advanced features, under voicemail, that we're going to begin setting stuff up. Now what we need to do is we need to create a VM mail or a voicemail pilot. The voicemail pilot is going to be the number that we tell the telephones to dial when we press the message button. Pressing that message button is going to be how we set it up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to end up having to create a VM or a voicemail profile that's going to specify how things are going to behave. So let's take a look at that again, just from a 30,000 foot view, so that we can get all of the configuration made on our CUCM. So what we have here is we have our pilot, and what we'll do is let's go ahead and see if I have any already pre-configured, which I do right here. So we'll just modify this one. So I'll say make this the default, because that's going to be the one that we're going to use. I'm not going to specify any calling, search space, or anything like that, and I will save. Now what happens is the moment if I come back up here and do list, what we're going to see is we're going to see this paper with a paper clip on it. That tells me that this is going to be our default pilot. Now, one of the other steps that we need to do, as I mentioned before, is we need to go in and configure the voicemail profile itself. Now, there probably is going to be one in here already. Yep, right there it is. VM default is what I called it. So what we'll end up doing is we'll make this the default, and we have to specify our voice pilot. So that's going to be that 56 none, that's the partition that we have. So that's 5600 that we have configured. We go ahead and save. Click back, take a look. Everything should be configured. We should be good to go there. And then what we need to do is we need to go under our individual telephones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick two phones. We'll go under our phone. What we need to do is go under our telephone itself, and I'm going to pick extension 110. I need to go into the DN configuration for it, and what needs to happen is we're going to have to select a voicemail category. We either have no voicemail, default voicemail. The one that we created was the VM default configuration. So that needs to be saved. I'll need to restart this phone. I'll go ahead and apply the config first, then restart the phone. All right, let's go and take a look at our next device. What we'll do is we will go back to devices, phones, and let's take a look at the CIPC. It's probably already set up, but we'll figure out what we're doing with it. So I want 1000 to be part of this mechanism. So I'll scroll down. Yep, it's already set up. So we should be good to go. The other thing that you need to mention, I should have mentioned here in the previous setup, is what I want you to do is I want you to go into the phone system. I want you to configure check forward no answer internal. The moment you check that, it's going to check a series of other boxes. That's going to be the best, fastest, and easiest way for you to get everything up and running in a lab environment. I also recommend using those features in an actual production environment. The only thing different between our production environment and a live environment at this particular juncture is the fact that we do not have any of the calling source spaces and partitions configured. We're just using none. So again, let's go through that reset process. Settings, star, star, pound, star, star. We'll force the phone to reset, and I'll do it on the physical phone here. Star, star, pound, star, star, and make sure it resets. All right, so now let's see what happens when we press our message button. Now it's giving me a fast busy. So it's actually trying to place a call, but I'm getting a fast busy. Why? Because we haven't made any configuration on the other side of the equation. What we need to do right now is we're going to move to our Cisco Unity Connection administration window. And from there, we're going to scroll down to a certain section that is going to be referred to as telephony integration. Now, I'm going to create a phone system. There's already going to be one in the system already, but I'm going to create one for the sole and express purposes of just walking through the process. We don't have to, but I want to make it. So I'm going to go through each of the steps in order as they appear in the menu to be able to demonstrate all the bare minimum stuff required to just get the voicemail system up and working. So again, from a 30,000 foot view, this is exactly what we're going to do. What will end up happening, we go to phone system. We have one here. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a new phone system. I'm going to call that phone system CUCM Pub Publisher. And I'm going to hit save. And then what we'll end up doing is we'll look at all of these specifications that we have. And let's see, all of these should be good to go for our purposes. So I'll go ahead and hit save. All right. Now when I go back, I should see the listing. Let's see, actually I messed that up. Which one am I in here? Oh, okay. So what we need to do is we need to take a look at this. We have our SCCP template. We need to concern ourselves with our device prefix, or a name prefix. So remember I told you that number that was important? This is where we're going to have it, and I'm going to call it VI. Now what we need to do is now we need to categorize our message waiting lights that we configured in our CUCM. So that was going to be 5501 for on, 5502 for off. And now we need to give it the identity or the IP address of our CUCM server itself. So it's going to be 192.168.1.175. Now, we have the capability of manipulating these ports, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to hit save. Now, guys, we're almost in the home stretch. If we've done everything right, we should have a functioning voicemail system before long. Now keep in mind, remember we made configurations on the phone system, on the CUCM. Now we're making corresponding configurations on the CUCME. And what we need to make certain is that at some point we're going to find that we register between the two devices. So when we look at the status of our ports as they were configured in the CUCM, we should see that they have actually registered. So let's keep looking and keep digging around, because we got one more element that we need to manipulate. And then that manipulation is going to come to us in the form of setting up our phone group. Now the moment we come through, we see here, let me see, this is one's already set up. Let me double check it. VI, message indicator. Okay, one of the things that I do want to see, re-entry interval extension, that's the one we just configured. Let's go over and take a look at our edit options. Servers, we don't worry about any of the codecs or any of the advanced settings. Go ahead and hit next. So actually, looks like we should be good to go. Let's take a look at our port configurations. Do we have any ports? No, we do not. So, right now we've set up the phone system. CM pub. Actually, it should have been CUCM pub. It's not mandatory. Like I said, it could be anything, but I just want to be consistent. I'll go ahead and save. And let's see, we got our default. We're not worried about any of that. Message counts, ring, run, synchronize. Should be good to go. DTMF signaling, everything. Yep, we should be good to go here. Now, what will end up happening is we can go back to our CUCM. And let's take a look at what's going on with regard to our line configurations. So again, advanced services, voicemail, and let's take a look at our ports. Find. They're still unregistered. So let's take a look and see what the specifications are. These values have to match exactly in the CUCM. So we've got Cisco UM1-VI1 and VI2. So that's going to be under our system. Let's see. That's going to be the associations. So under the group, CUCM. I'm going to go ahead and change it while I'm here. Save. Now, that specification right there was what we had. Let's reset our status. We will go ahead and save. Take a look at edit options first. Servers. 7, 5, order, 0. Yep, should be good to go there. Advanced settings, like I said, don't really want to worry about too many of these things. The only thing that we're probably going to work with is the timeout in order for testing, because it's going to be like 30 seconds by default. Let me see this. Answer calls, send, enabled. Should be good to go. Let's see if it finally registered. Like I said, we get all kinds of opportunities to verify, configure, test, and play with different things. And no, we have not registered yet. So let me try this. Still, nope. Without it being registered, it's not going to connect. So we need to figure out why. So let's see what we did here. Device pool default, AAR, our location, specified the hub, voicemail, nothing else matters there. 2, this is the second port, still says unregistered, 177.502, no external mask, voicemail, that looks right. Let's go back under our voicemail. Take a look at our voice profile, make sure everything's good to go there. 5060. Make this the default voicemail profile for the system, which we did. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the default configuration we made for the pilot. Pilot should be default. Make this the default to setup. VM pilot description should be good to go there. See what we've got. So let's cut back over here. So that means we need to look at the phone system. Make sure we got that configured properly. Default trap, send counts, run, all message, defaults. Defaults all the way down the line. Everything should be good to go there. Hit next. Make sure. Well, that's just all the same stuff over. No big deal. Port group. CUCM pub. Port count. That's interesting. It's not creating the second ports. Okay, let's add ports. That's what we did. 2. We want to create 2 ports. Pub 1, behaviors, non-secure. That's what we want. Alright, that's what we did. Actually, I think I accidentally did something there. Let's go back. Let's tab out. I don't want to accidentally make a mistake here, so let's add ports. 2. I think I accidentally changed something. Yep, I did. And then security mode. Now we have the 2 ports. Now that we have the 2 ports, we should be able to authenticate. Enabled, answer, message waiting, dial out. Now we've got the 2 ports. Each of these ports, if we go in and take a look at it, one of them is going to be for VI1. These are the things that have to match. VI2. Now if we go over to the system, we should be able to see whether or not we have synchronized. So voicemail ports registered with the